Hey guys, I wanted to show you for this first photo journal entry kind of how we're going to use our photo journals and the purposes of them and those types of things. So, to get started, we're going to look at a couple of examples of some photo journals. They're also the three terminologies that we're going to kind of use interchangeably throughout the semester will be photo journals, learning journals, and your portfolio. They're all the same thing and will be used simultaneously or interchangeably, those words. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this first one that we've got pulled up here. And this particular learning journal focuses a lot on the use of the software that he was learning during this course. So it's a little bit different than our class, but the principles behind it are going to be very similar to what you're going to be doing inside of class, inside of your photo journals. Okay, so he broke this out into each separate week, which you can totally do, or you can just have it whatever. Okay, here these first 4 or 5 paragraphs are him explaining. It's his about me page, his about me stuff. So all of this here, it's all about me kind of idea. His experience with photography, what he hopes to learn, what he's done so far in the software, those kinds of things. And him kind of setting goals and kind of talking about his experience up to this point. And some things that he's excited for. So, there's that. Then here, in this part, in terms of the assignment itself, right, he starts talking about some difficulties, some limitations, constraints, all things that are the same word, right, that he's struggling with currently in order to complete this assignment. So the first photo journal entry that you guys are going to do, I want you to answer 3 questions. Answer a little bit about you, right? So tell me a little bit about yourself. And then I also want you to tell me a little bit about your photography journey thus far and what your experience with photography. Some things that you've done, some things that you may have experienced or whatever. So your experience with photography up to this point. And then third, I want you to set some goals, set some expectations, and kind of define success for you in this class. What would success mean for you in this class? How would you know that you've been successful in learning? And defining some things that you want to learn, some things that you're excited for. Okay? And then I want to show you in this little thing here how we're going to use this photo journal to kind of throughout the semester. Okay, so he's got an assignment here, and he comes up against this limitation, or constraint, okay, which is a part of any creative field that you go into. It is part of life, really. There are going to be problems to solve, and you're going to need to know how to figure those out. Otherwise, we're going to get stuck in this area where we don't know what to do, and then things come crashing down around us. Okay, so here he kind of explains some of that difficulty, those limitations, and he decides to embrace those limitations and move forward. So the assignment was to discover faces in the photography work. So this one was his first one. He kind of explains it down here a little bit. And then he moves to the next photo, little explanation, next photo, explanation, so on and so forth. So this is something that you're going to be doing, and this is one option, one way of doing that. In these little explanations that he has, I'd like to see a little bit more about his process, and he does that down here a little bit more right here where he talks about in addition to other edits, he's flipped the image to reveal a face and those kinds of things. So that's a little bit more into the process. That's a little bit more what I'm looking for, right? here's this photo, I tried this thing, it didn't work out the way I thought, or maybe it did, but it just wasn't great, so I tried a different photo. Here's what I learned from that. Here's what kind of reflecting on your process, your creative thinking. This is what I was thinking when I took this photo. This is how it turned out. This is what I need to improve. Those are kind of the 3 questions you can ask yourself as you're going through this photo journal and entering things in there, right? What I was thinking when I took the photo, what were my settings, how was I set up, what worked, what didn't work, and what do I need to improve, right? And what I liked about the photo, what I didn't like about the photo. Okay. So he moves on to the next week here, and again he gives us a little explanation right here as to what some of the gear he used, right? So more about his process, and gives us the photos. So he starts a different kind of style, different way of doing the learning journal versus a photo explanation. He's kind of doing this bigger chunk of explanation and then the photo, then a bigger chunk of explanation, then the photos, right? Another big explanation, and then some more photos. Okay, so that's another way of doing it. And you can see his work there. Week 3, this one is where he kind of really steps into being able to do this pretty well. He talks about some of his previous experience, and then he kind of talks about his setup, okay, and some things that he wants to try and product photography that he wants to try and different things. So he kind of sets us up a little bit more in this, gives us a picture of his actual setup, his studio, the behind the scenes, right? What it looks like for him. And then he gives us a test shot, right? Something that didn't work out well and what he doesn't like about that right below it, right? So an early example, he was perfecting his lighting. He was trying to get it ready to go, and he noticed that he framed it a bit tight and needs to add some water droplets to it, those kinds of things. Snapped another photo. I'm sure there was a bunch of photos in between here and here, but this one happened to be his favorite. Okay, and kind of changes gears a little bit, jumps into this, and uses this as a product photography. And then he wanted to completely change gears into something else, kind of tells us about that, and tells us about the process again, that background, behind the scenes kind of thing, and shows us some photos there. And here's something else that I want to point out that's important, right? To able to explore, wanted to explore. That wanting to explore with food photography, so in his case with food photography, but that wanting to explore is key to creative field, right? Answering the question, what if I blank? What if I changed my aperture? What if I moved the camera this way? What if I did this? Those what if questions are going to help you a lot as a photographer move forward to your goals. So make sure that we're asking and exploring and reflecting on that exploration and what we did and what we didn't like. So in his exploration, he even talks about in here, I think right here, yeah, I like the idea of these, but feel like I clearly need a bit more thinking about my setup. So he doesn't like the backgrounds. He doesn't like how it is all set up. He wants something a little bit more professional looking or different looking than what he's got going on here. He also, gives himself some positive feedback, like, I wanted to use the contrasting colors of cyan and red, and that he liked those. But he needs to figure out something, right? Because these are not good photographs. They're just not. They're just meh, right? So he moves on from that, and he He talks about some still life composition, gives us some examples of that, and kind of talks a little bit about the software and some of his preferences down here below. Continues to move on, shows us an example of some work, some volunteer work that he does at an animal shelter, moves on down from there. And here's something important, right? He talks about the next few weeks he's going to be super busy. And so he looked ahead to the assignment and saw that it was going to be landscape. So he started working ahead at that so that he wasn't as busy. So just kind of keeping in mind with that. Gives us some, that background information again, background of where he's located, his geographical information, those kinds of things, so that we kind of understand where he's coming from, and also his thinking process of going through like, okay, I'm in this location, these things are some benefits and these are some drawbacks and those kinds of things. So here I am kind of thinking about my area, what can I get to make sure that these things look good, these photos look good. And so he goes out and he starts snapping some photos. Now, here's something else that you should be aware of, and especially with my class, I don't want photography to be a stressor, right? Photography should be exciting and relaxing and fun and entertaining, but it shouldn't be a stressor, right? It shouldn't be a class that you're constantly worried about all the time. So please don't let my class be that. And don't stress about being stressed, right? That's just kind of silly. Although it happens. Now, that being said, anytime that you can combine the photography assignment with another class, let's say another class is saying, hey, let's do a photo thing, and let's take some photos. You are more than welcome and should use those photos as part of your photo assignments here in class. Okay, because that gives you more practice, plus it kills two birds with one stone, right? So might as well use, while you're out doing something and you're there in that location or whatever, go ahead and snap a few photos. Why not? Okay. So this first photo, he made that first photo while he was shooting footage for another course that he was in, which was great. Perfect example. Again, he's doing this bigger, long explanation, and then the photos, right, with little, just tiny explanations underneath them. So you can maybe say photo 1, photo 2, and then explain that inside of your learning journal, okay, or your portfolio, whatever you want to call it. It continues on here, another big explanation, and then the photo. Okay, so we're kind of getting the point here, hopefully. Here he talked a little bit more about, I watched, here's the technique, this is the video I watched, and when I watched it, I gained this appreciation and those kinds of things. So he's kind of connecting different areas together, giving us more of a background about his setup here, right? That he has some blue and orange LED lights, and talks about some of the different photos and things that went wrong, like he drew an S backwards, right, instead of drawing it, because you have to flip images when you do things like this. Anyway, kind of talks about that, gives us the photos below, and yeah, so we've got that big explanation of all these photos, and we're good to go there. Then he, another session of some photography work. This is outside of the classroom, things that I'm doing, things that I'm looking at. And then the final reflections. So at the very end of the semester, you'll do a final reflection on the course and things that you learned, and kind of wrapping things back up to the, answering those questions, those goals at the beginning of the class. Did you reach those? Did you get where you wanted to be? Or are you left a little lacking in things? Okay, so this photo journal you will be working on throughout the semester. Okay, so you don't have to do it all at once. Here's another one. Okay, this one's mine. Something that you need to be aware of is every industry in the photo and video world asks for a portfolio when you go to apply for a job there. They will ask you for a portfolio of your work and want that as part of your resume, or even before they see your resume or look at your resume. So you can see here that my About Me page, or my About Me section, is a lot smaller than his. Very condensed and kind of to the point, but that's kind of how I write things and how I try to explain things. So there's the video work. Here's my photo work. Now, I wanted to show you this because my photo work is set up just a little bit differently than his. With the grid, you can add, so for example, if we were going to talk about the rule of thirds for an assignment, you could go out and take, and the assignment was to take 10 photos of the rule of thirds. Okay, you could take 5 of those photos and you could talk about them, or you could take all 10 of them and talk about them. And you could do it like he did, where you had either the photo explanation, or you could do like he did, where he did a big explanation and then all of the photos kind of down in a line. Or like I've done here, what you can do is you can put your photos in a grid, and then at the bottom of the grid, you can add a caption and give an explanation that way. Okay, so there's kind of some different options for you for this photo journal. In order to add a grid, it's pretty easy. What you can do is you can just come here on one of the plus buttons and you click Photo Grid. Okay, and then you can start adding your photos. And once you've added your photos, at the bottom of the photo grid, it'll have this option that says Add Caption. You'll click that and you can add your caption in here, save it, and go from there. Okay, I don't particularly want a caption on mine right now, so I'm not going to do that. Once you're done, what you'll do is inside of Adobe Spark, this is Adobe Spark, right, editing side of things. In order to share things to Canvas, you'll click this share button here, and you'll click Publish and Share Link. You'll click that, and it'll give you some publish options. You'll just kind of basically click through those, make sure you've got the title the way you want it. It's under photography, that you're the author or whatever. And then you can click, it'll say Publish Link. And if you click Publish Link, it'll do this little blue thing, and it'll give you a link. You'll click Copy, and that's what you paste into Canvas and submit as the assignment. And that's how I kind of check things and look at things from there. Okay? Again, if you guys have any questions or concerns, always please feel free to email me or contact me through Canvas. Although email is a little bit faster response time, as I'm checking that a little bit more often than I am Canvas. So again, please contact me, and we'll see you guys in the next video.